If you think boundaries are just a polyamory thing, think again. Because here's the truth. No matter what kind of relationship you're in, if you don't talk about boundaries, you're basically driving without a GPS. And let's be real. How well does that usually work out? Hi, I'm Iseman. I'm a relationship coach, and I want you to have the tools and skills that you need to build the relationships that you want and deserve. This channel shares all the lessons that I've learned the hard way, so you don't have to. Subscribe to get more sex, love, and modern relationship tips that you can start using today, no matter what kind of relationship you're in. In last week's video, we talked about what boundaries are, common misconceptions, all the different types of boundaries that show up in all kinds of relationships, monogamous or non-monogamous, why they matter, and what happens when we don't set them. But how do we set them? Let's be honest, most people don't grow up learning this stuff. Raise your hand if your family modeled just suck it up instead of express your needs. So let's talk about how to create boundaries that actually work. Boundaries aren't one size fits all. You're not doing anyone any favors by copying someone else's boundaries instead of figuring out what actually works for you. Before you set any boundaries, you need to ask yourself, what behaviors make me feel safe, respected, and valued? What situations make me feel anxious, drained, or resentful? What am I willing to compromise on, and what's non-negotiable? What do I need to be happy in this relationship? For example, if you notice that last-minute plan changes stress you out, you might need a boundary around giving advance notice. Once you're ready to communicate your needs and expectations to your partner or partners, do so clearly and assertively. Make sure to use I statements to focus on your feelings and preferences. I need time to process before big conversations. Instead of, you always spring heavy talks on me. Be direct but kind. Boundaries are about your needs, not blaming the other person. The most common mistake I've seen is when boundaries are created reactively, only after something goes wrong. Don't wait until things get messy. Have the conversation early and often. Think of boundaries like a relationship seatbelt. You don't put them on after the crash. Since we're not really taught preventative skills like this, especially in our relationships, it's easy to feel like someone's done something wrong when that's what you're trying to avoid in the first place. Make sure you're framing the conversation as an invitation to take care of something that you both care about, each other. I want to make sure we're both on the same page about what makes us feel respected in this relationship. Can we talk about it? Boundaries can evolve as you and your relationships grow. They're not hard fixed points. They're just the edges of your comfort zone, designed to be pushed consensually and in a safe environment in order to promote personal growth. For example, maybe at first you needed daily check-ins, but over time you realize weekly check-ins work better. The key? A healthy boundary is something that protects you without controlling your partner. You're not allowed to have friends of the opposite sex. I feel more safe when we communicate openly about our friendships. Be ready for pushback and stick to your boundaries anyway. Not everyone will like your boundaries, especially if they've benefited from you not having them. Some common, not so awesome reactions to new boundaries can be guilt tripping. But I always did this before. Why are you changing now? Testing the boundary. I know you said no last minute plans, but this time it's different. Anger or withdrawal, especially if someone isn't used to you standing up for your needs. If you run into any of these, stay calm and repeat your boundary without over-explaining. I understand that this is different from before, but this is something I need now to feel good in our relationship. If they consistently disrespect your boundary, that's a sign they don't respect you. Have you ever had someone push back on a new boundary you set? How did you handle it? Drop it in the comments. So you've set your boundaries, great. But now comes the real challenge, keeping them. Because boundaries aren't a set it and forget it kind of thing. They need reinforcement, flexibility, and communication to actually work long term. Your needs aren't set in stone. Like we already talked about, they can shift as you grow, as your relationship evolves, and as life changes. So periodically ask yourself, does this boundary still feel right for me? Has anything changed that requires a new conversation? Am I actually honoring my own boundary, or am I just slipping back into old habits? Maybe when you first opened your relationship, you needed a strict rule about no sleepovers. But now you feel more secure and realize that rule no longer serves you. That's okay. Boundaries should evolve with your comfort level. Boundaries aren't meant to be rigid rules. They should be flexible and necessary. Just because you set a boundary once doesn't mean it's set in stone forever. Relationships evolve. So should your boundaries. Adapt them when needed, but do it intentionally. It might be time to adjust a boundary if it's causing more stress than peace, if it no longer aligns with your values or needs, or if it's harming the relationship instead of supporting it. If it is time to adjust a boundary, make sure you have a conversation about it. Don't just suddenly change it without telling your partner and expect them to know. It is always okay to pause and ask yourselves, are our agreements still working for us? People take boundaries seriously when you take them seriously. What weakens a boundary? Saying, I need alone time on Sundays, but then letting plans override it every week. Setting a boundary, then caving the moment someone guilt trips you. Allowing exceptions so often that the boundary basically disappears. What strengthens a boundary? Sticking to it even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. Gently reminding people when they forget. Hey, remember I need a heads up before changes? Holding yourself accountable. Are you upholding your partner's boundaries too? If you expect your partner to respect your boundaries, you need to respect theirs as well. A boundary isn't just something you say, it's something you uphold. So make sure to be consistent in clearly communicating boundaries and holding your partners accountable by enforcing any related consequences for crossing them. If your boundary is, I won't stay in conversations where I'm being yelled at, then the moment someone starts shouting, you remove yourself instead of engaging. If a boundary is crossed, then it's time to act. Assess. Was it a misunderstanding or an intentional violation? Consider. Does the boundary need to be adjusted, or is this a deal breaker? Take action. Healthy boundaries require follow-through. If someone repeatedly disrespects them, that's a huge red flag. No matter your relationship style, boundaries only work if they're respected. If you set a boundary around alone time, but your partner constantly expects you to be available, that's a problem. If you have a boundary around discussing new partners before things get physical, but your partner keeps telling you after the fact, that's an issue. If someone continuously ignores your boundary, it's no longer an accident. It's a sign of disrespect. We all make mistakes, but the same mistake repeated over time, that's a behavioral issue and it needs to be addressed. The first time a boundary is crossed, a gentle reminder is really enough. Hey, remember when I said this was important to me? Once you start experiencing repeated violations, it's time to reiterate with consequences. I need to know my boundaries are respected. If this keeps happening, I'll need to rethink how we move forward. And if we're talking big violations, it might be time to reevaluate the relationship. What's one boundary you've set that totally changed your relationships for the better? Drop it in the comments. And if you need help creating and enforcing your own boundaries and relationship agreements, make sure to check out the link below to my course, ENM 101. No matter what relationship style you're in, this is an important process that supports any and every relationship. Or you can just, continue trying to read each other's minds. How's that working out for you?